What's up, guys? It's the Hiding Our Bias podcast, and I'm Caleb Brooks, and I'm with my co-host Tripp Blackmon. Tripp, a wild night of baseball last night, man.
Yeah, it was, man. It was probably one of the, I think that they're calling it one of the greatest Game 7 of the World Series of all time. I don't really know a whole lot about it. Obviously, I'm only like 21, and I've only been really watching the World Series since I was like, I don't know, I guess 5 or 6 is the latest I can remember. But really, last night's game really compares to the Game 6 of the 2011 World Series to me. That was it was just a wild one. I think the were the Cubs up like how much were they up at one point?
5-1.
5-1, and the Indians came back when Rajai Davis. I remember he came up, and my roommate looks at me and he goes, "Man, this guy, there is no way he hits a home run." And about 2 pitches later, he hits a laser down the line. I mean, that was just incredible. I love it. It's really going to make me, miss baseball season. I like seeing it go out that way, but I hate seeing it go out that way. What were your thoughts on it?
I thought it was perfect for baseball. I thought baseball needed it. I think that the MLB front office was probably really happy. I think it's going to gauge some interest from people who want to watch baseball a little bit more now because of that game. It was good for Major League Baseball to have a game like that. It was really wild. The Cubs jump up 5-1, and I'd kind of quit on the Indians, and all of a sudden, they questionably bring in John Lester, and the Indians on a pass ball score 2 runs, make it 5-3. Cubs come back and score. Aroldis comes in, gives up the double to make it 6-4, and then Davis homers off of him, and it was wild. It was loud in Cleveland. They end up going to extras. The Cubs scored 2 runs, and then the Indians with 2 outs managed to get a run on the board and are close to tying it, and the Cubs find a way to win it. So, if you're at the MLB front office, you have to be really happy with the way that game went. I know I didn't have a dog in the fight. I don't think you did either. It was just good baseball. It was fun to watch, and it was fun to see the 2 managers and their strategies, and you kind of question them at times, and sometimes you looked at it and said that it was, good work. And what would have been really interesting would have been if the game would have been in Chicago and you'd have had to see both managers manage their pitchers hitting and doing all the pinch hitting and stuff. You didn't really have to worry about that last night, which helped out a little bit, but that would have been cool to see. But overall, it was a great game and great for baseball to have that type of game.
Yeah, it really was. I saw a couple people on my Twitter feed today talking about, or it really was just like, it was like 1 or 2 people saying something like they think that sports are rigged. I don't know if they were being for real about it, just because the World Series went into 7 games and the NBA playoffs went to 7 games. I mean, you can kind of rig basketball. I don't think you can rig baseball, unless you have somebody like on the teams. I don't think that the refs or the umpires can rig baseball. It has to be done by the players, and I don't think that baseball is rigged. Basketball, it might be a little rigged. I really don't know, but I think it's nearly impossible to rig a baseball game to the outcome that you want it to happen.
Well, you did have the college. Not the college. The Chicago White Sox back when Sheila Joe played and all that happened, but a long time ago. And nowadays it's a little bit tougher to do something like that with games being on TV and all that stuff.
Really, with the White Sox or the Black Sox scandal, that was the reason why they were able to rig it, is because they had players in on it. Like nowadays, I highly doubt that any player on the Indians would say, "Hey, we're going to throw the World Series." I highly doubt that. This is something that Cleveland has wanted for a long time. Cubs have wanted it for a long time. I do not think that either side.
The players, they get paid. They get paid plenty now. That was part of the deal, was that the players didn't get paid much by the owner, and so it was kind of like a backlash to the owner for not giving them enough money and stuff like that. So you don't really have that problem nowadays. And people are just so much more competitive now. And I mean, I agree with you. I don't think it's possible, and I don't think basketball players do either. I mean, I highly doubt Golden State went out there and gave up 2 games to force a game 7. So
Yeah, but in basketball, I don't think that Golden State, I don't think that they did that either. But I think that it is a little bit easier to rig a basketball game than it is a baseball game.
yeah, I mean, no doubt, because you can go in and purposely miss a layup, and they
Yeah.
purposely miss a shot and stuff if you get players involved. And referees can really rig basketball. I mean, we've already seen that within the last 10 years with referees getting in trouble with that. So yeah, it's definitely possible, but I don't see it happening. But it was a great series. I think God kind of punished Cleveland fans for making fun of the Warriors for blowing a 3-1 lead. But
Yeah.
it was a great series, man. It was a great postseason. Probably one of the best postseasons we've had in our lifetime. I would say. I mean, a lot of close games. You didn't really have any blowouts. When you think back to the NLCS, ALCS, and NLDS and ALDS, I mean, most of the games were close. You had the Dodgers and Nationals went all 5 games, and you had 2 really good championship series leading up to the World Series, and it was fun to watch. It was fun to get to sit back and watch baseball be played the way that it should be played. And Baez didn't get the bunt down last night, which could have cost the Cubs. It definitely cost them a run. But how about, of all people, Jason Hayward is credited with being the hero of the Cubs, even though he didn't produce on the field? I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, that I haven't actually heard his speech. I haven't really seen a whole lot of what the players are saying that he said or whatever, so I don't really know a whole lot about it. But all I have to say is that better be a $184 million speech, because that's pretty much all the Cubs paid him to do is give a speech during a rain delay during Game 7. Because I mean, yeah, he I think I've gone on this rant before. I've definitely gone on this rant on Twitter. I'm going to try to not rant today, but Hayward, obviously a very good outfielder, very good glove, very good arm. Poor hitter, terrible hitter. They are not paying him. Don't know anyone that would pay $184 million for a 230 hitter. So they're obviously, I don't know what it is. It obviously worked out for him because they had him in the clubhouse. But Jason Hayward robbing Theo Epstein blind. But I do have to say, Theo Epstein, outstanding job as the GM. He broke the Red Sox curse and he broke the Cubs curse. Outstanding job by him. And he's younger than Bartolo Colon. I saw that. ESPN tweeted that, I think, yesterday or something. But a couple questions I want to ask you, dude. First of all, did you agree you mentioned the Javier Baez bunt. Did you agree with that call?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I didn't see it coming. I thought what was interesting, I tweeted this today. It was cool to hear how John Smoltz and Pete Rose and A-Rod and guys that had played, they weren't surprised by the call at all. Smoltz was expecting it, and it came as a surprise to all the guys who hadn't played Major League Baseball. So I thought that was really interesting. It was really cool to see throughout the whole World Series how much knowledge John Smoltz and A-Rod and Pete Rose have of the game, and it was so cool to sit there and listen to them share that knowledge with everybody on national television.
Yeah, I think that was really good for Fox. I think that their whole post game and A-Rod, Big Hurt, Pete Rose, and who was there? Is there another guy?
No.
I know John Smoltz was in the booth, but
Yeah.
anyway, whoever it was, they did a really good job. I really liked listening to them. I liked listening to their knowledge. It was really fun to listen to. But yeah, about the bunt, I don't I really don't know if I agree with it or not. I guess I do. The only reason why I think I would maybe have a problem with it is 2 strikes. However, Javier Baez has to get that bunt down. There's no excuse for that. It was a fastball down the middle. You got to get it down.
Yeah, very poor form on the bunt from a professional guy.
Yeah.
Stabbing
One
at
thing
it and all that, just not very good form.
One thing I was really thinking about is just thinking about the Cubs really, they had their back against the wall for for pretty much half the series. They're a really young team and not really most of their guys performed. Obviously Rizzo and Chris Bryant and Ben Zobrist, I'd say performed the best.
Schwarber.
Addison Russell performed really, really well. Um, Kyle Hendricks pitch really well. I was kind of wondering why they took him out in the fifth. Not really sure as to why they did that. He gave up that one walk, and I love Joe Madden. Joe Madden's probably my favorite manager of all time, but I really think that he was just overthinking himself in Game 7.
Yeah, well, he was under a lot of pressure. Both managers were under a lot of pressure. You can't imagine what it feels like to sit there and have the weight of the city on your shoulders, and that's what Chicago and Cleveland players had last night, and the managers,
Yeah,
everybody involved with the
yeah.
organization. So
I just
it was and the umpires. We haven't talked about this. They called the rain delay. Think about how tough of a decision that was for them to have to pause that game. When you've got Game 7 of the World Series going on, to have to make that decision, which I think it was the right decision. I think when they played through the rain the first time, I was kind of questioning it because you're in Game 7, you definitely don't want it decided by, rain coming down.
yeah.
So,
I just
you got to give the umpires credit on making the decision and, allowing the players to be able to play in good conditions instead of having to work their way through very poor conditions. So, I think that hadn't been talked about enough is the decision that the umpires had to make last night and how tough that was on them.
Yeah, the rain was a very big thing because, as you know, when rain comes and there's a rain delay, it tends to shift the momentum. The Indians didn't have they had a little bit of momentum, they didn't have a whole lot, but I really kind of think that rain delay kind of might have switched it back over to the Cubs. That
Well, it
was,
helped in the sense of the Cubs had kind of lost a little bit of morale when they gave up the lead.
hmm
Chapman's in the dugout crying and everything, and
yeah,
it gave them a chance to go sit together, talk, and regroup and kind of refocus.
yeah,
And
it did.
you know, it's like one of our buddies said the best team won last night. I think it was kind of obvious who the better team was. The Cubs were definitely the better team. They had more pitching, had more bats, but you have to give credit to the Indians. They fought through injuries this year. They were without, a good part of their pitching staff. I mean, two really good pitchers were out, and they were able to fight through and go to the seventh game of the World Series and be one run away. So you got to give the Indians a lot of credit. It was a great season by both teams.
Yeah, the Indians played very well. They had a great season, a fantastic run. Got to be happy if you're an Indian fan. Cubs, I think that it was pretty much obvious the entire season that they were the best team, and they ended up proving it when they needed it in one of the best game sevens, probably in any sport of all time. Um, just that caliber, to the fact that they were ahead and the Indians came back, and then the Cubs were still able to rally and come away with the win. That says a lot about them. It's really great for Joe Madden, and really, I mean, it's really good by Terry Francona. I know he's already won. Did he win one or two World Series with Boston? Just won one,
Francona
right?
won 04 and 07.
Okay, yeah. Um, so yeah, Terry Francona, he's obviously a great manager, but I'm really happy for Joe Madden that he's able to finally get that one World Series under his belt. I saw where they're 3-1 favorites to win next year's World Series.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that. I would not
Yeah,
bet on the Cubs
that's a
next
little high.
year.
I mean,
Yeah.
baseball, there's years where the best team doesn't even make it to the World Series.
Yeah, take St.
There's
Louis
so many
last year.
intangibles.
Look at St. Louis last year.
Yeah,
St. Louis was the best team in baseball and didn't make it last year.
St.
People forget
Louis
that.
in 20, I think it was St. Louis in 2011. Um, they won like 83 games, or maybe it was 2006. It was one of those 2 years. But they won 83 games, won the wild card, and then ended up winning the World Series. They
Yeah,
were
you see
one
that
game
happen
over
a lot
500.
in professional sports. Not as much in basketball. Most of the time in the NBA, the top two teams